Hi guys, this is gsnom.com and I'm here with the unboxing of the Nokia 8.3 5G, the first 5G phone from HMD Global, and also James Bond's handset. It's going to appear in the latest James Bond film used by the secret agents, but we're not about that here. We're all about smartphones, so here we go. First things first, you can clearly see that HMD's partnership with Google remains pretty strong. We have a dedicated Google Assistant button right here. And the device itself is quite a biggie. We're dealing with a 6.81-inch smartphone with an interesting design for the back quad camera, slightly reminiscent to the previous Nokias. By the way, pretty cool looking hue here. It's called Polar Night and it's inspired by the Finnish heritage of the brand. The price of the phone is rather hefty, around $700. Well, some of it is covered by that powerful CPU inside the Snapdragon 765G. It's part of the Android One initiative, this handset here, and it's going to get 2 years of Android updates and 3 years of security updates. I've already set it up, so let's actually go back to the box and see what the Nokia 8.3 5G is all about. You can already see that we're getting a metal key used to access the slots, and also a rather large amount of manuals, instructions and details in a few languages. Okay, and the actual accessory box is this one here, which includes a charger which has a USB-A connector and also the promise of going up to 18 watts. Pretty skimpy on the wattage. Some companies are offering 30 watts for prices which are half this phone, or maybe even 3 times less. A pair of headphones which have a 3.5mm connector and they pretty much look like the Apple EarPods. And finally a cable which goes from USB-C to, well, USB-A. And that's pretty much it. Everything available inside the box has been revealed, and I think it's high time we got back to the actual start of the show. Let's put this back here, and here we go. This is the handset that you're going to see in the hand of James Bond or his trusted companions, whoever they may be. Okay, and sadly the James Bond movie has been postponed to 2021, but at least we have the handset which appears in the movie. I won't lie to you, this is a huge smartphone. It's really big, so one-hand usage is pretty much out of the question. The phone measures 8.9mm in thickness, closer to 9mm, and weighs 227 grams, a weight associated usually with battery phones and gaming phones. It's rather massive, and it's got a Gorilla Glass back, which is once again very good looking. I'm guessing that the frame here is covered with plastic, or at least that's my first impression, and the facade is obviously all about that glass. Okay, and now let's talk about other aspects of the handset. So first of all, the screen you're seeing here, aside from being huge, 6.81 inches, has a resolution of 2400 over 1080 pixels, and it's an IPS LCD panel. It doesn't have gimmicks, which is rather weird. It doesn't have a high refresh rate, it doesn't have HDR10 as far as we know, so there's that. We should actually go here and check it out. So you can tweak the brightness, white balance, screen timeout, pure display, and that's pretty much it. Apparently it has some HDR capabilities, so we're not left in the dust. Well, I think it's time to also talk about the CPU, and I think I'm going to go ahead and install a trusty little app which we always rely upon, but I can already tell you it's a Qualcomm Snapdragon 765G processor, which I've seen on quite a few devices, and here it is. This time it's accompanied by 6 or 8 gigs of RAM and 64 on 1 or 120 gigabytes of storage plus micro SD card slot. The battery is a 4500 mAh unit, and for security's sake we have a side place fingerprint scanner here in the power button, not as flat as I've seen lately on other handsets. We also have an extra button here for Google Assistant, and we also get a audio jack here, USB-C port, and the speaker, which sadly is singular for music and so forth. Okay, so we're done. I think it's time to cover the camera setup. This one here is a front 24 megapixel shooter, but there's something important about it. It has Zeiss optics, which is something you usually see on the back of Nokia phones, not the front. Speaking of back cameras, we have a quad setup here. You can already tell which are the good cameras and which are the complementary cameras. These obviously have bigger lenses. One is a 64 megapixel shooter with Zeiss optics, and the other one is a 12 megapixel ultra wide with autofocus, and these two are two 2 megapixel cameras, macro and bokeh. Dual LED flash, 4K video capture, 30 frames per second, and on the connectivity front, we're also receiving 4G LTE category 18, plus we also get the 5G standalone and non-standalone Wi-Fi dual band, Bluetooth 5.0, GPS, and obviously the USB-C port you saw mentioned before. We're running here on Android 10 in a stock interface with Android 1 in the mix, and well, that's pretty much it. And I think it's time we also went into the camera application. I have to mention that we're also getting the OZO Nokia audio capture, which is quite fine. We also have an AI feature here. There is also the cinema section. We have a cinematic capture and editing option, which is quite nice to see. For now it's 2K 24 frames per second. You can also switch to 4K, and there are a lot more features to cover here. Actually, this is probably a response to the cinema app that Sony offered on the Xperias, and you're going to enjoy this. Once again, there's also here, there are a lot of tweaks to apply. There should also be some HDR video and well, many more modes and even editing modes to discover and apply. Other than that, there's portrait, there's a pro mode, there's also video, obviously, and interestingly enough, in video you can actually switch between multiple modes, which is something I haven't seen every day. There's this one here, which is the dual mode. There's this one here, which is apparently a macro mode for video. There's the main one, the ultra wide one, and finally the action one, which is a pretty cool feature, and I see that HDR is also triggered. By the way, the interface has changed from the last Nokia phone I've seen. There is stuff happening here, and there's a lot to unpack, maybe even more than the last Nokia flagship, believe it or not. Anyway, this has been my first contact and unboxing of the Nokia 8.3 5G, Nokia's first 5G phone, which is something to see nowadays, something important to stay relevant on the market. In the end, I'll have to remind you that this is quite a huge phone and also slightly slippery, so definitely a case wouldn't hurt. It's a phone which is meant for media consumption and cinematic recording. If it handles it well, you're going to find out in the unboxing. You're going to find out in the review. For now, this is the phone. It's priced around $700, and this is it from us. Bye bye.